This week saw the highly anticipated debut episode of Star Wars The Mandalorian, titled only Chapter 1. We start the episode off on an unnamed ice planet, where the Mandalorian picks up his first bounty. During this scene, we get to see the Mandalorian's expertise in combat in action, as he both deals with Cantina ruffians and some type of sea creature. After eventually coming back from the job, the Mandalorian meets with his guild leader, Greef Karga. Looking to get a big bounty, Karga gives him only an address of his next client who wants the bounty to be in private. This mystery client turns out to be part of the Imperial Remnant, and gives the Mandalorian a vague target to bring alive. The only information he has to work with is that the target is 50 years old and their last known location. After using a piece of Beskar metal given to him by the Imperial to get an armor upgrade, the Mandalorian then reaches Arvala 7 and meets a native there named Kuiil, who wants to help him so he can get rid of all the criminals who now inhabit the area, and sends him to where the bounty is located. Upon reaching the criminal hideout, the Mandalorian is forced to team up with the bounty droid IG-11. Together, they manage to clear out the entire facility and discover that the bounty was actually a baby of the same race as Yoda. IG-11 plans to kill it due to the orders given, but the Mandalorian instead blasts him to protect the baby and look for an alternative way out. This episode started off slow and really picked up the pace much later into it, which I'm not sure everyone might like, but yeah. Personally, I didn't mind it one bit, and wanted to take in all the ambience Filoni and Favreau had to offer before things start getting crazy this season. Now, as where characters are concerned, starting off we see the Mandalorian as a cold and not very talkative figure, almost making him seem like a robot or heck, another Boba Fett. Then as we get more deeper into the episode, the Mandalorian starts becoming more talkative, and you can get a feel for what his character is all about. I'm also glad the choice was made to mainly focus on just the Mandalorian in episode 1, before introducing any other main characters like Cara Dune for example. However, I did enjoy the small role that Nick Nolte's Kuiil had in this episode more than I initially thought I would. I mean, come on, his "I have spoken" catchphrase? Priceless. And let's not forget about Taika Waititi's IG-11 too, which was just pure eye candy in every single scene he was in. Both great characters that I very much look forward to seeing and learning more about them this season. Next to the characters, I think it should be said of just how well the entire episode was shot. The cinematography and colorimetry of the episode is sublime and oozes quality right from the first scene to the last. The writing, on the other hand, is okay for now, as it tends to be a little messy or confusing at some parts, while in others it's just right. We'll have to see how this picks up in later episodes. As for the music, it certainly has its own tone and style to it. Can't say it stood out as much as a John Williams piece would had, but there were for sure a few times where the music really made the scene for me. Now, one of my favorite parts in this episode, and well, I'm pretty sure this is going to be all season long, is picking up on all the little Easter eggs and references that are quite subtle, especially for a casual viewer. Like for example, in this episode we hear that Life Day is referenced, and I especially liked how the Mandalorian used his rifle to electrocute the sea creature, which was a throwback to Boba Fett doing the exact same thing in the Star Wars Holiday Special cartoon. Also, speaking about Boba, but did anyone else catch that Boba Fett look-alike in the Mandalorian Enclave? Hey, personally I wouldn't mind Boba showing up in the series, but if he does, then it definitely better be more than this. Not to mention in canon, Cobb Vanth at this point in time wears Boba's armor, and that guy's definitely not a Mandalorian either. So I'm really curious to find out more about that Boba Fett lookalike and why they exactly were at that Mandalorian Enclave. Along with the Easter eggs, we were also presented with a ton of classical alien species like Nyctoses, Jawas, Rodanes, Twi'leks, Quarrens, Trandoshans, and even Kubasses, just to name a few. I'm all for new alien designs in Star Wars, but hey, sometimes you just need to go back to the classics to get that rush of nostalgia pumping. Oh, and let's talk about that ending, shall we? One of the cool things I'm excited about The Mandalorian is how it's going to explore the lore and go deep into it, especially in some parts that may have been previously ignored by the movies. Yoda's species being just that. From what I've heard, George Lucas was very much involved in allowing the name of Yoda's species to be finally revealed in The Mandalorian. Kind of a showing of thanks to his friend and Padawan Dave Filoni, who did, by the way, direct this episode. Granted, we don't exactly learn the name of the species in this exact episode, but the baby is certainly a start towards us eventually getting to that path in this series. Now, going into The Mandalorian, it's safe to say I had my expectations fairly high, and fortunately, Filoni and Favreau delivered. The Mandalorian is everything I ever wanted to see from a Star Wars live-action TV show. It's gritty, serious, and best of all, it has that Western kind of vibe to it. It's hard to explain, but it just all feels like Star Wars, and you can't help but revel in it. If anything, it reminds me a lot of A New Hope, which is my favorite Star Wars movie. The big thing about A New Hope that I love was that it felt like a Western in space. And that's exactly what we continue to get in The Mandalorian. A space Western with that same kind of scum and villainy that we all loved in A New Hope, but on a bigger budget and scale. The only exception here is that there are no Jedi or Sith, but you know what? I think I can live without that for this series. But that was my take on this episode of The Mandalorian. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.